Hello, and welcome to this demo on OpenShift. In this demo, we're going to look at an example of deploying a simple application on the OpenShift origin cluster. On the left, we have a working OpenShift cluster, and on the right, we have a local instance of source code repository set up using GitLab. We also have a source code repository set up. There are just two files, a very simple Python-based web application, and there's a requirements file. The .py file has the Python Flask application code in it, and the requirements.txt file has the requirements for this application, which happens to be Flask. To deploy this application in OpenShift cluster, I log in as a developer, and then I create a new project. Click on Create Project and provide a name for the project. Once the project is created, select the project to visit the Project Console window. Click on the Browse Catalog to see a list of options available to deploy applications from. In my case, the application happens to be Python, so I click on Python to deploy a Python-based application. In the wizard that follows, provide a name for the application and the link to my GitLab repository. To get this link, go back to GitLab and under the source code repository, copy the URL. Copy and paste the URL and click on Next to deploy the application. When you go to the Overview page, you can see the deployment, which is in the process of build. If you go to Builds section, you can see that there's a build configuration created automatically. We will look at more builds later in the course, but for now, we will take a look at the logs of the builds. Click on View Log and it gives you a live stream of the logs generated by the build. If you look at the logs, you can see that it first clones the repository from the GitLab repository and then installs the application source and dependencies, which happens to be Flask in this case, and then, once the build is finished, pushes the image to the internal Docker registry located at 172.30.1.1. Once the push is completed, it automatically creates a deployment that takes the application image and deploys an instance of it. If I go to Overview, I can now see the deployment configuration, and there's a route created for external access, and that is what we need to access our application. Clicking on the route takes me to my application, and this is the link that I will be providing my end users with. Well, that's a simple and quick demo on deploying an application on the OpenShift cluster. We will look at more advanced demos later in this course. We will look at deploying a multi-tiered application with different microservices. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next lecture.